Hi, everybody. This is Be Heard, Empowering Women with me, Tallow. And today, my guest is Marilee Grace. And she, like myself, has gone through divorce. And the difference with her was she was married a very long time to her husband. I, on the other hand, have a third husband. The other two, I just could only put up with them for 7 years each. That was a cutoff. But the third husband's 34 years. So I finally did something right. And I like your handle that you have. What's it called again? Right swipe?
Right swipe girl.
Right swipe girl. That's her email. So hi, Marilee. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. And where are you at? What state are you
I am in very cold Kansas City right
in?
now.
Oh, well, if it makes you feel any better, West Palm Beach, Florida is dreary and raining.
I take dreary and rainy over negative, whatever it is. I haven't even checked my phone to see what the negative is today. It's just been crazy cold.
So let's talk about the fact that you were married for 29 years when you got divorced, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Tell us why you would leave after 29 years. Like what changed?
Well, it wasn't that something changed overnight. You'll hear people say that what was the final thing, the final straw that broke the camel's back? Um, and it's hard. I can't pinpoint one thing, but I like to say it was a death by 1,000 cuts.
That is actually a chapter in my book. That is so funny that you said that. Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons. One of the chapters is called that. It's so funny.
Yeah,
So I understand. Go on.
yeah. And I had things that happened in my life, and I had a lot of times when I just really thought and had my quote unquote come to Jesus meetings with myself. And I one day just realized that I had a whole life ahead of me and I had a choice. And I could keep living in the high maintenance relationship, or I could make a change.
Mhm.
And I really struggled with that because I was a 50-something-year-old woman. I'm 56 now. I'm not ashamed to say I'm 56. I'll be 57 next month. But I had to really think about it. And somebody that I follow, I listened to her podcast, I read her book, and she kind of put it in a really great terminology for me so that I understood it. She said basically she left her children's father when she was 50. And she said, I had to think about it this way. For the first 18 years of my life, I really was my parents' property. Our parents are responsible for us. Legally, if we do anything wrong, they have to take the rap. She said, then I had a little small amount of time where I was supposed to, figure out my freedom, and that was called college. And that can be 4 to 6 years, 4 to 8 years. And
Mhm.
she said, then I entered this marriage, and a marriage is a legal contract. We have made it into a legal contract. And she said, I signed on the dotted line. And that was the next 28 years, 27, 28 years, where I was legally the property of my husband. Now, some people will say, oh, we're not property, but it's a legal entity. And she said, then I decided
Mhm.
I still have a lot left in me. If you look at the average age that a woman lives to, we're approaching 80 if we're not even into the 80s now. And with modern medicine, we can live very happy, healthy lives. And so she said, you literally have more time than what your marriage was when she was 50.
Yeah.
She had 30 more years. And she said, I want to make it the biggest, best, badassiest life I can.
I
And that
understand
really struck a chord with me.
that we do. I told you we're gonna have things like I'm 75 years old.
Okay.
Or so say I don't look it.
No, you don't.
That's my little joke. That's my little joke. No, but I am 75. And I bring that up because before 2020, I was at a book signing and the woman was being interviewed and I was in the interview and she asked me, what do you want from your life? What do you want? And I said, I want a big life. And 2020
Right.
came and I had some depression and I had a whole turn around look at what was going on with me. And that's when I wrote my book. That's when I wrote my book. So I get that, because I might have 25 years left, but I want those 25 years to mean something. So
Absolutely.
that's why I'm trying to reach women that need help or need to do things. So I totally get where you're coming from. So so you leave. How did he take it, by the way? I don't do you see it.
Um, he said he was shocked, but he got a lawyer very quickly. I already had a lawyer. So, yeah, I mean, it couldn't have been a huge shock unless he was totally living in a different house than what I was.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
yes, I do know what you mean. So, and how long were you divorced when you decided you wanted to start dating again? Or did
Not
you
long enough.
not want so you
Not
start
long enough. Okay, so here's how that went down. I left in September of 2020. My divorce was final in May of 2021. Uh, Between the time I left and the divorce being final, I worked with a therapist and she said, Marilee, once your divorce is final, even before your divorce is final, men are going to start just dropping like flies into your life and they're going to want to sweep you off your feet. Don't do it. Give
Mhm.
yourself 2 years. Then after I was done with the divorce and I parted with my therapist, it was an amicable parting, it was planned. I hired a coach and she said, don't start dating for 2 years. And she said, do your own work, do the work on yourself. Well, in my mind, I really was doing the girl math and making sense of it. And all the women in my women's support group were on the apps. So I felt kind of like, gosh, I want to be able to have conversations with these women. I don't know what a dating app is. I have no clue. And so in my mind, I'd kind of checked out emotionally in about 2019, and here it was 2021. So that was 2 years, right? Wrong.
Oh, okay,
That
that's
math
too much.
doesn't equate. But I
Yeah.
did get on the apps. I was very awkward. I left swiped everybody at first. If somebody right swiped me, I was like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? No, left. And my coach said, if you're going to be on the dating apps, you have to right swipe every now and then. And she said, just use it as a way to start a conversation and learn to talk with men again.
Yes.
It's a different world,
Yeah, the dating.
so talk with them.
Mhm,
And boy, did I find out it was a different world. It
mhm.
was crazy. But I actually put my profile up in July, probably about it was after the 4th of July, I believe. So my divorce wasn't final more than just a couple of months. And I tell people I wasn't looking for a man. I wasn't looking for a relationship. I just wanted to be able to have good conversation with the women in my group. So started the apps
Okay, so they were
and
on
it was a
that.
crazy ride.
What group is this that you're talking about of women?
Say that again.
What group of women are you talking about? Your group.
It was just a support group that I was with in.
I was wondering, but
Yeah.
they were all
Yeah,
on they were
it
all
was
on dating
my
apps.
a lot of them were on the dating
Okay,
apps
that's what
and
I
it
meant.
was through my coach.
Okay.
It was like one of her private
Uh-huh.
Facebook groups for the women that she coached.
But yeah,
So it was
you
a support
wanted to
system.
feel part of. That's why you did it because
Yeah.
I get it.
New girl on the block.
Yeah, I know. So what happened? Did you meet anybody worth dating, or was it all conversation?
Oh Lord, I met a lot of men. I met a lot of men. The
Yeah.
first man that I talk about in my book, his name is Mike. Um, Very bland, very boring conversations. But my coach reminded me, when you're with a high maintenance person, it's always something stirring. So get used to calm, get used to maybe a little bit boring. And I was like, okay. So, we did the good morning, good night, a little bit of conversation in between. I was the one that made the first move and said, hey, when I get back from vacation, you want to go out for coffee?
Right.
Well, he took coffee to a way different level than what I did. And I never did meet with him because I told him, no, coffee means coffee. Coffee doesn't mean sex. Coffee doesn't mean going back to your place or my place after having a cup of coffee.
Because
And
he
that's what
brought up
he
sex.
wanted.
He brought up sex when
Yeah.
he said coffee.
Yeah. It was just, that's what it was. And so I totally redid my profile after that, saying coffee means coffee, Netflix means Netflix, no chill. I'm
Yeah.
not a one night stand. I'm not a friends
Yes.
with benefit.
Got
If
it.
you really truly want to go out to coffee and get to know me, if you want to go out and have a glass of wine, if you want to do these things and get to know who I am, then
Mhm.
right swipe. If not, left swipe. Don't waste our
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And I met a couple of other men that I invested some time in, but one I caught in a lie, and it was the day that we were supposed to meet, caught him in a lie, and just really, I had gotten to the point where, no, I'm not going to put up with that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
I'm not going to take lies. I'm not going to take insincerity. I'm not going to take you thinking that we're, friends with benefits. And
Mhm.
I started to kind of elevate myself and what I was willing to do and not do.
Yeah.
And I did enter into a 15-month, well, let's see, was it actually 15 months? It was about, I met him, I was just chatting with him. We actually met for the first time in person in October of 2021. And we called it quits in July. So what's that math? It was
Mhm. Mhm.
talking for a few months and then whatever.
But he was in your
But it
life for
turned
over a
into,
year. It sounds right.
yeah,
So what happened with
yeah.
him? What
Well,
destroyed that relationship?
I I found, so the funny thing is he actually did not live in Kansas City. He had lived in Kansas City, so he had a tie to Kansas City and would come back and visit his mother. And so when he would come back and visit his mother, and he usually did that about every 3 months or so, we would meet, but we talked on the phone, we text, and when he was back in town, he was back for a chunk of time to make it worth his while, usually about a month. So we would see each other and go out, and we'd go to the park. We'd have dinner. He'd come to my house, we'd have dinner, we would watch a movie together, that type of thing. Um, but what I found, and I didn't even realize it, was that I was starting to slip back into some of my old people pleasing habits.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't being authentically myself. I
Mm-hmm.
was reverting back to some of those things that I had done for 29 years in
Mm-hmm.
my marriage.
Right.
And I didn't fully figure it out until I was writing the book and I went back and was looking at some of our text messages.
Mm.
And I had done some more work after that point, and I thought, oh my gosh, right there, that was a red flag. Oh my gosh, when he said that, I skipped right over that. I allowed him to say that to me, and I did not stick up for myself, and I didn't do what I had been practicing with
Mm-hmm.
him. And I think it was the fact that I just I didn't want to be the one to break up another relationship,
Yeah. So why did you decide to write a book about your experience?
because seriously, you can't make this shit up. I would show my friends. I would say, "Oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this, girls." And I'd show them the conversation or show them the pictures and I'd say, "Can't make this up. Can't make this up. I really should write a book about this." And
Mhm,
then finally one day I said, "You know what? I am going to write a book about this
mhm,
because women enter into the dating apps. Some women aren't authentic when they go in, and there
mhm.
are women who are catfishers and scammers, and they're going
Oh,
to play the guys. But a lot of women go in and they go in too soon
mhm,
after a breakup, after a divorce, and they haven't worked on themselves. And I wanted to give
right.
them some things to consider and to look for, and the signs that I ignored, so maybe they don't ignore it.
Yeah.
But my best tip is work on yourself first.
Mhm,
There's nothing magical about 2 years. Work on yourself to the point where you can look yourself in the mirror and you have elevated yourself to a point where you're not going to fall back into some of those old tendencies and fall back into that people pleaser and taking the things and the treatment that you don't deserve.
You
Elevate
know,
yourself to a very high standard woman.
I know that's true. However, I was 41 before I decided or needed to work on myself because growing up in my family, they thought I was a possession. I wanted to go to college and they said, no, you have to work for the family and make money for the family. And the only way I could get out of that was to get married. So, like you said, I went from one prison to another. Okay.
Right?
Because he was very possessive and just very flawed. And I was trying to survive, just survive, And when I finally did go to college, I was 28 years old and was a divorced mother of two children with no child support. And this is when I had the opportunity. So I grabbed it. And the first,
Right.
yeah, the government supported that, that you had low income and, single mother. And the first thing I learned in one of the classes was the pyramid, Maslow's pyramid, right?
Uh-huh. The hierarchy of needs.
Hierarchy of needs. And I looked at that and I, oh my God, I was in survival mode all those
Right.
years, right? I just trying to get a roof and food. And then, to get to even where I am today, that day, when I went to college, it took all that time because all these obstacles and blocks. And then, even though I ended up getting a degree and finding a good man when I was 41, um, I had become alcoholic because I had depression that was undiagnosed and I was self medicating. Plus, I was self
Right.
medicating all these terrible people in my life.
Right.
So, when I titled my book Raised by Wolves, Trapped by Demons, my parents were the wolves and the men were the demons, I thought. So now, when I get this wonderful life, still not happy, and I ended up going to treatment. And once I got sober, and they put me with counseling, and they gave me the 12 and 12, which is people should read that even if they don't have a problem, because it has such great rules for life. Then I started working on myself. So I didn't start till late in life. And for us, for you and I, to share
Right.
experiences and put that out there for young women is huge. It's huge.
Oh, so huge.
Yeah.
And not only, I hope, you know, my message is a message of self-love, learning to love yourself first and foremost before you can love anyone else. And you might be thinking, well, I love my kids. I I love my parents. I love my family. You love them much differently when you love yourself.
It's true. One of the
You
things they
really
told
do.
me in therapy was to every morning look in the mirror and say, I love you. And I could not do that. I could not.
Oh,
So the therapist said to me, well, can you say I like you? Yeah, I think I could do that. So that's what I started with. baby steps. I mean, you have to
Right.
accept what you can accept until you get to the next point. But self-love was foreign. That was a foreign concept to
Oh,
me.
it was so foreign to me. I didn't grow up in a family that it was, you got to love yourself. It was, you, you're just okay with you, whatever. And I was always a very confident young girl, and
Mm-hmm,
I was a confident teenager. I started to have little notches where I started getting smaller and smaller and
mm-hmm,
smaller, but it wasn't
mm-hmm.
until I was probably in my 30s and I'd been married for a couple of years when I just became very small and much more quiet. And that I just kept receding back and receding back and receding back. And it was just a slow fade out for me.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage women of all ages, younger women, don't lose your shine. Self-love is real. Self-love is important. It's not selfish.
Nope.
And women our age and beyond,
I'm
it's
just,
never too late to start loving yourself again or for the very first time. I think that I started loving myself for the very first time after my experience on the dating apps.
mm-hmm,
And I, like you, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror.
mm-hmm.
I put on makeup and avoid that. I put on makeup and looked at myself long enough to put on my makeup. And then I ignored mirrors. And if I did catch myself, a glance of myself in a mirror, it was always disparaging thoughts.
Oh,
Gosh, you need to
yeah,
lose weight. You're ugly. Your
yeah.
nose is big. Look at that. Look
Mm-hmm.
at
Oh
this.
yeah, we all did.
And I would
We all did. And
constantly,
I had a podcast last year that I did on toxic masculinity and the toxic men that are out there that are so damaged that they need to be in control of you. They need to be in control. And they literally groom you, even
oh,
after marriage,
absolutely.
you know. And I know my first husband, he did not want me to wear makeup. And, he didn't like the way I dressed. He wanted me to dress in plaid shirts and jeans, and that was it. And, I thought I was in love. So I'm like just trying to make him happy, whatever. And that's what they're
Right,
doing. So the more you bend to their will, the more they are molding you into the step
right.
life that they really want. And
Yeah,
the second husband, the same thing. He was extremely jealous and just controlling also and jealous. And it's just amazing until I didn't even know what was going on with me. I didn't. I just thought I'm bad luck. I had bad luck. It wasn't bad
yeah.
luck.
My picker's broken.
Yeah, but your
I hear
kicker
women
is
say that my
broken
picker's
because
broken.
you don't love yourself, so you don't think you deserve that a better man. So you take this
Right.
package that says he loves you, and you're so happy somebody loves you. you know,
Absolutely, yes.
your standards are
Can I do
low.
any better? I don't know. This might be my last chance. This might be my only chance.
Well, especially for me, the first time when I had to get out of my house, I couldn't handle that I was going to be stuck there. And I wanted to go into the service. No, you can't go in the service. Only whores go in the service. Anything I brought up, they shot down. So even to marry him,
Right.
of course, my father said no and tried to talk him out of it and talk me out of it. And I had to literally walk out the door with no notice. I ran away to my grandmother's house.
Mhm.
So tell me, it's like Red Riding Hood. So tell me about your Thriver writing circles. What is that? That's
Okay, so I have a divorce thriver because we can survive divorce or we can thrive after divorce.
I get it.
And yeah, divorce thrivers because the goal is to get beyond mere survival
Right.
to a point where you're thriving. And
That
it's
is.
a writing circle.
Mhm.
And the thing about writing circles that I want to clarify, I've been in writing groups, and those are where authors and writers get together and they bounce ideas off, or they read their work to each other, and they critique.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to develop this more. You need to do that more. That's not what a writing circle is. A writing circle is where you come together. We would do it on Zoom. I also am working on getting some in person in Kansas City, because there's a power in being face-to-face, real life, breathing the
Oh,
same
yeah.
air together.
Yeah.
But in the writing circles that are online, the Divorce Thriver writing circles, we meet every other week, and I give prompts, and the prompts are a way for you to grasp an idea and just let your pen flow.
Okay.
No judgment what comes out. You're not worrying about dotting I's, crossing T's. If you use the wrong there, the wrong to, you're just writing. And when you the whole goal is to keep your pen flowing on the paper. And if you stop, then you have a focal point that you focus on, and then you try to resume writing as quickly as possible. And you want it to be just a constant, whatever comes out of your pen.
Consciousness. Yeah. You know what you said about thriving, not just surviving. One psychologist had said to me, you were a victim and now you're a survivor. Now you have to merge the two and not
Yes.
think of yourself either way, as a survivor or a victim. You have to merge in your authentic self, which really helped me a lot too on my path. So before we run out of time, so what do you have? Do you have things online? Do you have a website?
It is. I am going to, if you want it for in the show notes, I'll give you the link
Oh, good. Thank
to
you.
my website. Now, it's on the back side of my website, because I am right now, I'm appearing on lots of different podcasts, and I am wanting the group to be, for the podcast listeners, kind of an exclusive thing. So not just everybody can join it at this point, unless they have found me through a podcast.
Oh, I
And so
got
it
you.
will take them to the backside, and I have reduced the price. I've given a $100 discount on it. And if they just go to the front end of my website, which would be great too, it's www.rightswipegirl.com. They're going to see an option for them to get a complimentary first 5 chapters of my book, Right Swipe, A Quest for Love. And then that way they can make a very informed decision. If they think that they want to go ahead and go to Amazon and purchase it, they can purchase either the ebook or the paperback. But that first 5 chapters gives them a real taste of what it was like for me, those first 5 chapters. So that's one option. And then on the back side will be the Divorce Thriver. And I'll email you that link so that you can put it in your show notes.
Great. And I'm going to email you a digital copy of my first book, because I am now going into my third book, which is going to be a workbook. So every chapter is an anecdote from my life, but then there'll be reflection pages where I ask them about how they feel about certain things that might have brought up for them.
Right.
Or whatever.
It is so powerful to work through a workbook.
Yeah.
So powerful. It's powerful to do your writing, like a writing circle, and it's powerful to work through a workbook. And when I've got several workbooks that I've worked through that, man, I look back and review, and my life has really grown. And I think that it's because there's healing power in what you write.
I think so too. I get a lot of good feedback from my books and my podcast about how I helped a woman with whatever she's going through, and that's all I want to do. So what's your best advice for someone wanting to date again after divorce? Not the 2-year rule.
Not the 2-year rule. There's nothing magical about 2 years. You can be at 729 days and, oh gosh, it's not 2 years. And then magically on day 730, it's been 2 years. I should date now. If you don't put in the work, 2 years means nothing. So the work is hard. It's going to be the hardest work you've ever done to really get real with yourself, to find who you are to the core, and let who you are and who you hope to be merge together.
Exactly.
Kind of like what you said, we can't separate them, that it's always a part of us,
Yeah.
but to grow into the most dynamic woman that you want to
Integrate.
be.
You integrate,
Yeah.
and you integrate, you learn, you take it in, and then you can find your authentic self. Like, I wouldn't even think that I would be a writer if I didn't do the work that I did for many years on myself. Now, let
Right.
me ask you, do you have a man in your life right now? Or are you
I do
single?
not.
Okay. Would you
I
go
am
on a dating
single.
app again?
I never like to say never, because
Never
whenever I
say
say
never.
never, God has a sense of humor and,
Yeah.
kind of sideswipes me with something. So what I would say is, if I ever went on a dating app again,
Yeah.
it would look very different because I'm a very different person.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I would also pay all of the fees to get elevated to a level where the man has to pay as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they put their money where their mouth is,
That's
they're going to
important
be a
to them.
higher
The
quality man.
relationship is important. One of my daughters met her husband on a dating app, and it was after she had become a widow, was a widow for many years. And she did meet her husband on a dating app. He's very, very nice. And then another daughter who's divorced, she uses dating apps, and she's gone out with a few guys, but she hasn't found one that she clicks with yet. But the
Right.
precautions, you got it, like you said, meet for
Oh,
coffee in a crowded place.
yes.
Things that's what they did. You know.
And, when I was getting ready to go on my dates, I did have a friend that she knew where I was going.
Should know where you were.
She
Mhm.
knew what time I was supposed to be there.
Absolutely.
And she knew exactly what I was wearing.
Yeah,
And
that's
some
that's
people say, oh, that's overkill. I also had a safe word with her,
yeah.
so that, she was going to call me. And if I said my safe word,
Mhm. Yeah,
send somebody,
yeah.
uh, she knew.
She knew.
And it would be something that I would be able to bring into a conversation,
Yeah,
but it was a word that I don't use in
yeah.
regular
Yeah,
conversation.
I think they're okay as long as you're safe. I mean, after all, my day, we just used to meet guys in the bar.
Yeah, yeah.
I think,
But now you meet a guy in the bar and you have to worry about something being put in your drink.
I
And,
mean,
that
yeah,
goes
you
both
can't.
ways. I don't want it to seem
It's always a
like we're
risk.
just saying all the men,
Yeah,
all the men. There are women
yeah,
out there who don't have good intentions as well.
exactly. Let's face it. So listen, this is for my listeners. Mary Lee is going to have her own podcast soon. And
Yes.
tell them what you're going to call it again.
I am calling my podcast Me First.
Mhm.
It's going to be a self-love, it's going to be a podcast that's all devoted to self-love
Yes.
and how to do self-care, self-maintenance,
Okay.
some self-discovery, and I'm going to have dynamic guests on who have walked down that road and who have also just display the fact that they truly do love themselves and can talk to that subject.
Perfect. So I hope you will ask me to be on your
I
podcast and
absolutely
love
will.
it. And thank you for coming today. This was wonderful. I loved our conversation. I hope you
Thank
enjoyed
you
it
for
too.
having me.
All right. So we'll see you soon, Marilee. Bye
All
bye.
right. Thank you.